What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We're going to dive right back in. If you didn't see the last video, this is the continuation of basically prepping these rims. These are Ronal original rims that I pulled off my 1985 Mercedes 190E. It's a 2.0 liter. It's a Euro spec car that was brought here from Germany. So it's kind of a unique, cool car, and it had these rims originally on it. And I believe the gentleman purchased them from the factory because everything matched the paint and etc. But there was a lot of imperfections on those rims. So if you didn't watch that video, they had a ton of oxidation, a ton of just layers and layers of paint. I don't know if they were repainted or what what happened over the years, but I did my best to get it back down to the bare metal, and we went ahead and I already put a coat of the leather brown Rust-Oleum that we're going to be using on all these rims. And on this specific rim, I did a silver rim. That's how they were when I took them off the car, and I was trying to go back to that look, but I wasn't 100% satisfied with this, and I also had some major issues with a reaction to that silver paint right in this area, and so I had to already start grinding some of the layers of paint off. And on this one here, I did not get to doing the silver paint because I decided I think I want to go all brown. But as you guys can tell, this brown came out absolutely phenomenal, and you can see here I even did the cap on these. I'm going to show you guys how I got this really mirror-like look out of the rims that originally looked like this, and I'm going to flip onto the screen how they looked prior to even sanding, because this right here is after sanding. What you're about to see right here is before I even started to prep them and sand them. So what we're going to do today is take these two rims, do another wet sanding on them, and then I'm going to show you guys how to get them to look like these two over here. But we're going to go and do them all brown everywhere and see how that looks, because this is all kind of a test to see the exact look that I'm going for and what I want for my final result. So stay tuned. I'm going to get set up now and we're going to start doing this. So we're going to start this next process by using some 500 grit wet sandpaper. I like to grab a hose and keep it on like a low setting. That way I can keep introducing water and just basically try to get as much of the rougher area sanded down as I can. Now after wet sanding it, I'm going to basically go ahead and throw some degreaser on there again, rinse everything down, and then we're going to set up for priming. So let's go ahead and get this wet sanded, cleaned down, and then set up for priming. So after we've went ahead and wet sanded it and it's gotten as smooth as we feel comfortable for the next step, which is going to be the painting process, you want to make sure you get everything as smooth as you can. All the edges that you're going to be that you went ahead and sanded down, that you're going to be painting over, you don't want to feel anything with your finger. Now I did the best I could. These rims were so bad that I had a lot of filling to do, a lot of sanding to do, and I feel comfortable with where they're at right now after painting these ones and seeing the outcome of them. So the next step is going to be really to make sure you dry it fully. I used a blower to blow out any of the settling water that's going to sit on there after washing it down and degreasing it. And then after it dries, I'm going to go ahead and wipe it down with mineral spirits. Now because we went ahead and did the barrel with the truck bed liner paint, we need to tape that off so that we don't hit that with any overspray or any paint. So I'm going to be doing that as well. Then we're going to be doing a few coats of this Rust-Oleum Professional Primer. This is a fast drying primer. Now typically you want to let that completely cure and dry for about an hour or two and then lightly wet sand it again. But I went ahead and painted this, and I realized that the surface was pretty smooth, and when I painted these, I went right over this primer with this. Now I had primed it with a different primer that I wet sanded before this, but I went and picked this up to try it out, and I really like the way it sprays. I like the feel that it had afterwards. It actually left a really nice surface for the paint. So after the primer, we're going to go straight to painting. We're going to put some really nice heavy coats of this on here, what we call wet coats. And I'm going to show you guys how you can even get it to fill in some of the small imperfections. Now, you're not necessarily supposed to ever fill in with paint, but if you flow it on there properly, you can sometimes get it to fill in some very small, minute imperfections, and I'll show you guys that. Now, my favorite part, this is the first time I've ever used this Spray Max 2K, and oh my god, does it give it an amazing finish, and you guys can see it in this here, how awesome and glossy that finish is. Now, this is already sat for about 4 or 5 days, so it's completely cured, and that's how the final outcome is going to look. And I have not wet sanded, not polished, done nothing to that, just the paint and then the 2K. So you want to make sure you're wearing a mask with all of this, but specifically this. Do not even attempt to do it without a mask. It is very dangerous. It has warnings all over it, and you'll hear people all over YouTube and all over the internet talk about how important it is not to breathe that in. Okay, so with all that out of the way, let's get set up so we can start painting. Okay, so before we get started painting, I want to point something out. Normally, I paint outside, and I know that sounds crazy, but I share this space with a woodworking company, and a lot of times there's a lot of sawdust, as there was today, but the weather's not looking great outside, and I'd actually rather paint inside. So what I did was went ahead and wet down this whole area. That's a little trick that I've learned off of other YouTube channels, and I went down and laid a tarp and tacked it down, or held it down in each corner with something heavy. That way I don't risk having something flip up. I'm also going to go ahead and close that garage door most of the way just to leave a little bit of space. And we're going to get set up now and paint. Just wanted to point that out to you guys. So starting with the primer, you just want to put on a light, even first coat, making sure that you hit every area that you can. It's okay if you miss a couple areas because you'll be able to go back over that with the second coat. After letting sit for 10 minutes, you can start your second coat. This coat will be a much heavier coat, and you want to apply it moving the can slower across the surface, but continuing to move the can while you spray. Don't stop moving the can until you stop hitting the nozzle each time. This will allow you to put an even coat and nice and thick without any runs. So guys, you saw there, I put on a nice light thin coat on first, but hit almost every area, and then we hit it with a nice wet coat. Now, I'm going to give it about 30 minutes to dry before we start painting with our actual color, which is the Rust-Oleum Leather Brown. One thing that I did catch though, is if you look down here, there's a little area that started to curl up, and I'm not sure what caused that, so I'm going to scrape that up the best I can with a razor blade, and then re-hit that with our primer. Now, some of these other areas where you can start to see a little bit of pitting or almost like an orange peel look, those we should have no issue covering up with this paint. And I'm going to show you guys how I do that. It's really about control. Sometimes it's just with time of doing painting, and I've gotten really accustomed to controlling these Rust-Oleum spray cans specifically. And what I do is I lay a few light layers and then start going really wet and leaving less time in between coats and putting on several extra coats, usually 3-4 coats on something like this, and that will kind of give it that like heavy plastic look. So I'm going to go ahead and scrape that off, hit it with some more primer in that area, and then we're going to get set up to paint our color. So now it's time to apply your first coat of the actual base paint. You want to make sure you keep continuously moving the can while applying it into every area you can. But don't worry if you miss a few areas. This is the first coat, and this is really just to get that second coat to stick. which we're going to put on much thicker. After waiting 10 minutes for the first coat to dry, you can now apply the second coat, which is going to be your first wet coat. So you're going to apply this by going much slower across the surface, allowing the paint to actually become very wet looking. Always continuously move the can, but move slower than you did for the first coat. Try to get in every area you can. After applying the second coat, wait 15 minutes to apply this final coat, the third coat, which is going to be another heavy wet coat. This coat I like to apply into every area, starting with the outside edge and areas that you might have missed. Make sure to continuously move the can like we've been doing the whole time, but slow your speed down as much as you can without getting runs. So hopefully you guys saw how thick I put this on. Now this is not recommended on every application. With these type of rims, you've got some areas where this heavy paint will run off. Now this was that corner that was really messed up. I'm going to try to hit it with some light. And you can see it is absolutely not perfect, but far better than it was before. And from the standard viewpoint here, the rim looks, in my opinion, absolutely phenomenal. It almost looks like it got chocolate poured on top of it. So let's take a look at this other one over here. Now, I have not done the clear coat. We're about to set up and do that, and that's just going to make this shine even better. Now we're going to apply the first coat of clear. You want to make sure you give ample time for that heavy coat of paint we put on to dry. I gave it 45 minutes and it came out perfect. You want to apply this exactly the same way that we applied our base paint, using a light first coat and a wet second and third coat. So I got the rims in much better lighting for you guys. I brought it into this back room. Now, I know the sound quality is absolutely terrible in here, and sorry about all the echoing, but I really just wanted you guys to get a look at how awesome these came out. Even earlier when I had some of those, mistakes in the, edges here, they are pretty much all hidden now. So I wanted to go ahead and do a quick fill-in, because if you're like me on these type of videos, you skip to the end because you really want to see the outcome, and sometimes you miss some of the important things. Now, I wanted to let you know that the way that I do this is I do a light coat with about a 10-minute time between the next coat. Then I put on that really heavy wet coat that you guys saw, where I kind of hit some of the areas that need more paint a little bit more, dusting it and getting it really wet. Then I let it sit for about another 15 to 20 minutes and I apply another coat. So we've done 3 coats of the paint and 3 coats of the clear, only 2 of the primer. Then I waited about 45 minutes after the third heavy coat of paint that I did before even attempting to do this clear coat. And that is because it says on the clear you want to do it within an hour, but I know that I put a much heavier coat than most people are going to. So that's just kind of my process, guys. Now, this is just something I've learned from personal experience, not something that I picked up from anybody, but I feel like everyone out there that's doing these type of projects comes up with their own processes. So you almost have to feel out how you lay your paint down, what paint works best for you. I absolutely love the Rust-Oleum. This 2K Clear has one of the best spray fans that I've ever seen, and it makes it very, very easy for anyone from first-time sprayers to professionals to be able to spray this clear coat on nice and even without any run. And you can see in the video that I was going over and over it and didn't have any runs or any drips or any type of errors from overspray. So once again, my name's Pete, guys. This is Pete's Carport. The next time you see these, they should have fresh tires on them. It should be fully assembled. The next thing we're doing is the brakes on the car while these dry and cure. So we're going to be doing the SC300 drift build and the brakes on the 190E kind of in between these getting fully cured and tires put on. So have an awesome day and a blessed week, and see you guys back next time. Like, subscribe, and share.